Good morning, everybody. I hope you like that little opener. My name's Matt Lewis, and I'm here with you today on March the 23rd, 2021, to talk to you about balloon drops. Now, I would really love to be out in the field doing this. I want to be at venues, but obviously there's a little bit of a crisis going on. You might have heard of it. So all our venues are shut down. Everything is sort of like on hold. There is light at the end of the tunnel. 21st of June would be given a deadline to sort of like get back to some sort of normality. So a little bit about me. I've been in industry 33 years now, and it's been a roller coaster, but it's been an enjoyable roller coaster. And this is my first time teaching on the Q convention. So thank you, Qualitex, for accepting me. Thank you to our excuse me. Thank you to our hosts, Dom and Keith, for putting this all together. Two people I really want to thank are Stuart Davis and Mike Harris, who have really helped me get through this tough time. It's been quite emotional. So today is about balloon drops. Now, it's not going to be just about me talking. It's going to be about me showing you videos and giving you hints and tips. We'll be covering stitching, we'll be covering rigging, and more importantly, we're going to be covering RAMS, which is Risk Assessment Method Statement. That's the health and safety side. Before we move on, I just want to just go over to another clip. Now, this is from the Hollywood Vampires UK tour back in 2018. We toured with them, and we were very honoured to be able to do the balloon drops on the last song of every show. It was only 300 balloons. But it was amazing. Now, when you look at the video, if you look in the right hand corner of your screen, you will see a little white light moving around. That's me. Okay, I'm not waving to you. When we go into these rigs, we wear gloves because we're pulling the cords quite quick. Our gloves have little LED lights in the palms here. That gives us a bit more light when we're up there because it is quite dark. It's very noisy and it's very warm. So I'm going to talk to you also about communicating with the front of house people when you do these drops and what you expect. So let's just quickly go to the video. It's only about 15 seconds, but you'll see the overall scale of these drops. So enjoy it, and I'll be back soon. Wasn't a massive video clip because we have to rely on what people get for us. So, you know, that was a very short clip. But can you see the scale we're up against? These are big arenas. I think that one seats 22,000 people. All rock fans like me. So it's a great privilege to do these jobs. But can you see why I use these bad boys? They are absolutely brilliant. They're my chosen balloon for balloon drops. Number one, they're perfectly spherical. okay, I very rarely lose a balloon when inflating. Number two, they are so tough when they need to be. So the effect lasts much, much longer. And number three, they're so kind to your hands when you're tying them, because no one wants blisters. I can tie those all day long, no blisters. The necks are really, really long and tough. Okay, so that's number one priority. Now, obviously, you've seen from the video, we're up there 39 meters above the arena. How do we know when to do the drop? Well, there's two ways of doing this. Number one is a comms. So when you're in the rig, you'll have a headset on with a microphone and a receiver that you can press to talk. That's our communication with front of house.
It's 1 hour.
Front of house is at the back of the arena. It's the audio and the lighting controls and the AV. And you'll have a show caller there that you speak to on the comms. Okay, so there's a good line of communication with us. The second line of communication is a visual communication. Now we're going to cut to another video in the moment, and this one is for Alice Cooper, and it was the Halloween tour in 2019. I did quite a few drops leading up to the end of 2019, and you're going to see the Alice Cooper one now. Now this was a visual cue. The cue was when a few members of the crew arrived on stage and threw out some large chloroprenes which we supplied for them. They were printed with the $1 Million Baby on. They threw those out over the audience, and that's when the drop was activated. As the camera pans round, you are going to see the black tubes in the ceiling, you're going to see the balloons coming down, and you're going to see the stitching slowly unravel, okay? And that's what I'm going to talk about you next. I'm going to introduce you to why I do chain stitching, and I'm going to show you how we stop that chain stitching from coming undone when it's above the crowd. You're not going to believe it, but it's fun and it works every single time, because I don't believe drops should ever fail. You don't get a second chance with a drop, and I'm going to show you my tried and tested method. Okay, it's probably used everywhere, but I'm going to show you how it's done, and I'm going to show you here how we get that done. And there's also a video to show you about how the chain stitching goes, and I'll tell you why it's my preferred method. So let's just look at the video now. It's Alice Cooper, the Halloween tour. It was at the NEC Arena, which is 5 minutes down the road from me. It's a less of a ceiling height, it's only 22 meters, but it's still high enough. You'll see on this one the visual effect you get and how the interaction is with the audience and how they actually play with the balloons. And that's what I want to talk about with you as well, is why I always use 3-footers. It's that interaction and it's the visual effect. So have a look at the video. It's about a minute and a half. bad little video, was it, really? Can you see how we got the actual visual cue when the actual balloons were thrown from the stage? We're above the rig in the grid. We can see them coming out. So as they're coming up the steps, stage left and stage right, we are starting to pull. So as they throw their balloons out, our balloons meet them on the way down. And if you looked at the video, you probably just saw the bottoms of the black tubes, and you probably caught the stitching that goes underneath. So what I'm going to do now is cut to a video of me stitching an actual tube. So you'll see me stitching a tube. It's not that long, and then we're going to come back and we're going to show you how we stop that stitching from coming undone. Okay, so let's go to the video of the chain stitch, and then we'll have a little chat afterwards. See you in a bit. So there you are. That's the chain stitch. Relatively simple. It's not complicated, and it's basically like making a chain. You just got to remember that whatever the length of your net or your tube is, you're probably using 2.5 times that in the length of cord. Now let's run through the cord with you. We use Dacron line. It's the very, very thick 150-pound Dacron line. I don't want to use anything thin, I want it really, really strong. So you saw the chain stitch. Let's show you how we finished it off at the end. I'm just going to unravel a little bit of this now. So as you get to the end of the stitch and you've got no more tube to actually bring together, you'll end up with the cord coming out. I just fold it back over, and that's what I use. It's the bead of a 5-inch or a 260. I'm using a 5-inch now so you can see it clearer. All I do, I open it up, place the cord through, I'll double it up, just going to double that over there and pop it back through. Now that is secure. That can hang in the ceiling next to the tube all day long. It will not come off until you put pressure on it. So when you get the call to do your drop and you're activating your drop, all you do is pull, the little bead pops off, and your chain starts to unravel, and you just keep pulling in the line. So shall we just do that again so you can see it? It's folded over like that. We're going to pick up a bead, there it is there. We're going to pop it through, do it again just to make it secure. So that is now right next to your tube, okay? So there you are, and all you do is with your line that's taken up to wherever you're going to pull from, you apply pressure and keep pulling so the line unstitches, and that is it. It's so simple. What could possibly go wrong? Nothing. So what I'm going to do is probably show you another video now, and this is a video of a balloon drop that I think you were all at, well, some of you were. Back in 2018, it was WBC in San Diego, and I was lucky enough to be involved with the balloon drop. Stuart Davis did the design for the opening night party, and he asked me to come along and do the balloon drop. Now I was teaching there at the time, I was teaching balloon drops, so it was a good idea that everyone at that opening party saw the balloon drop, okay, and you saw the visual impact that it made, and then you were able to attend the class if you were lucky enough to come and see how they were done. Now the balloon drop in San Diego was only 100 3-foot balloons. That's all it was. But you looked and you saw what happened. 800 of you in that marquee just absolutely bouncing those balloons round for about 15 minutes. The video clip is in 2 sections and I've tried to piece them together, but you'll see the visual impact. And then what I'm going to do after the video, I'm going to put some stills on the screen of the shots that were taken of that balloon drop. They're absolutely amazing. It's bright, it's bold, it's colourful, It's absolutely amazing. So watch the video, okay, of the balloon drop. If you were there, think of how it made you feel. Well, is that bringing back a few memories or what? I mean, phew, blimey, 2 years ago nearly. Yeah, it was good. It was a lovely, lovely drop to do, and I was really, really honoured to be involved with it. So, we've now shown you videos of drops, and now it's time for me to probably waffle on a little bit. So this may be a bit of a long section, but I'll keep it as short as possible. I want to tell you about how we go about doing these big drops from the moment we arrive at a venue or a concert, and then I want to talk a little bit about the grid that we go into. So on arrival at a venue, my first port of call is the tour manager, who I've had contact with leading up to the event. I'll just make a phone call or a text message saying we're on site and we're going to start your drops. We've had a plan, we know what to do. We've spoken to him about where we're going to put the drops. We've had the grid plan, so we've got them marked out. It's out the way of the lighting and the sound systems. On arrival at a venue, we make our way to front of house, which I told you earlier is the back of the arena. There's a reason for that, and that is because there's nobody there. We don't want to be down the stage end where you've got lighting, truss, rigging, sound systems coming in. You've got chains and motors being dropped from the ceilings. Well, not literally dropped, but lowered down to take all the trusses and the lighting up. We just don't want to be down there. So we make our way to the back of the arena, but there's one thing we must do first of all. It's a live rig, so we must prepare ourselves, and we must wear hard hats and high vis. Why would you need a hard hat to do a balloon drop? Well, you don't need a hard hat to do a balloon drop, but when it's a live rig, you need a hard hat to protect yourself. So hard hats on, high vis, and whilst the rigging is going on, the arena will become a hard hat area, compulsory. Okay, so that's what you must do. Once we've set up, we get all the kit out ready to rock and roll. We have flight cases. I don't carry anything in boxes or bags. Everything goes in flight cases or trunks or road trunks on wheels. Everything is wheeled in, excuse me, and we're set up at the back of the arena. The flight cases are labelled, so we know what kit is in what flight case, so we don't have to go hunting for it. It's written onto the top of the boxes. We know what's in there. The crew have been prepped on this. They've had a sort of like a memo from me, or a briefing of what they've got to do and what I expect of them. So start off with getting all the kit out, laying it out, getting the tubes out. To fill the balloons, I use Makita leaf blowers, which are battery operated, because I can inflate a 3-foot balloon in about 5 seconds on those. And the battery ones are really good because you can walk up and down the area where you're filling, and you haven't got no leads on the floors. It gives you more freedom. And with a drop, so let's say I was doing 1,000 3-foot balloons, I would have 10 tubes. For every tube, I'd have one crew member. Now, that one crew member will take an inflator and they'll start filling. They'll work alongside another crew member who will take the balloon off them, tie them, and put it into the tube. It's the quickest possible way of doing it. I work on a time of motion on the first tube. And I'd like to think that I can get 100 to 110 3-foot balloons in a tube within 30 minutes. Now, this isn't a sprint, it's a marathon. We go at a steady pace so we can maintain that pace all day. Once we have 2 or 3 tubes filled, we move them into the locations on the floor underneath where they're going rigged. Then I will send 1 or 2 crew up into the rig or the grid to lower ropes down. We carry our own ropes, so we have ropes that are over 70 meters. These aren't thin cords, these are something like mountaineering ropes. They're not got to take any weight, it's just the tension you have to put them on to keep those nets nice and straight when they're in the ceiling. So those will go up, they'll lower the ropes down. You'll notice, and I think Stuart Davis picked up on this a few years ago when he was on the Black Sabbath tour with me, that I had a very strong crew. And he turned to me at the end of the day and he said, I've noticed one thing about this job, Matt. I said, what's that, Stu? He said, you didn't do anything, did you? I went, no, I didn't. He says, it's not a detrimental, it's no detriment to you because you actually did the correct thing. If I'd have got involved with doing the drops, I wouldn't have been able to make sure they happened because I may have missed something. Okay, so I very rarely do anything on a job apart from make it happen. So it's on my head if things go wrong. So you stand back and you observe. There's one very important though, and that is I chain stitch every single tube myself. There's a reason for this. Should a tube fail because the chain stitching didn't work, but it will work because I did it and I don't allow failure, then it's only me to blame. There's no one else. I don't pass the buck on to anybody. It's me. So once all the tubes are done and they're up in the grid, it's stow away all the kit. So all the kit is made sure it goes back into the right boxes. We have checklists to know we've not left anything behind, and we have a quick discussion about what's going to go on. I then have to take them to a safety officer who will give them a bit of a lecture, and they have to watch a video on rules of the grid. So rules of the grid are you don't take anything up there you don't need. You're high in the air. The highest grid we work in is the O2 at the Dome in London, and that is 51 meters. So it's 150 feet. It's a long way up and it's a long way down. You go for the safety briefing, watch the video. It shows you all the rules and what you must do. We then take the elevator or the staircase to the grid. Before you go out into the grid, you have a thing called a pat down. Now, a pat down is when you just make sure that you've got nothing loose in your pockets. Absolutely nothing at all. You don't need mobile phones out there. You don't need change. You don't need car keys. If you've got zip pockets, you stow them in your zip pockets. If you haven't, there'll be lockers there, and you can just put them into the locker, take the key. The key then goes on a toggle around your wrist so you can't drop it, and you enter the grid through a magnetic or a combination lock door, so no one can get up there. The fire officers are with us all the time, so if it's a combination lock, he activates the combination lock. If it's a magnetic door, we can just have the magnetic pass. We have to sign for them, and we have to give them back to the venue. Once you're on the grid, we make our way to our designated areas where the drops are. We check them all off, and then I'll sign them off to say, yeah, everything's fine. We come down from the grid, and then it's lunchtime. So this is our downtime. Now, it's quite a laborious task filling balloons all day long. So a good meal is required by all the crew. When you're on tour, you always get crew food, okay, and the crew food is good. It's a bit like 5-star catering. It's not sandwiches, it's full cooked meals. You've got all the healthy options. You've got as much soft drinks as you want, tea and coffee. So, and it's laid out in a canteen style, and it is absolutely the best food I've ever tasted. After they've had lunch, I will sit down and have a talk with them about the run through of what we're going to do. I will also issue out a run sheet and a set sheet. The set sheet tells the crew what's going to happen at certain times, so what time the doors open, what time the support band is on, what time the support band is off, and what time the main band go on, which is the band we're working for. Now, I also give them a playlist, and a playlist will have all the songs listed in order of what they appear on the set. If there's, say, 20 songs, at song number 14, I will score a big black line underneath it. Everyone then knows that on song 14, we meet backstage where our flight cases have been stowed. This is the time we now ascend into the rig. So we gather everyone up, we do our pat downs, we make sure there's nothing on us we don't need. We take the elevator up to the rig or the staircase, and we go out into the grid. Now, this is probably the scariest time for me, because you think what I'm going through. I'm now, or in probably 6 songs time, I'm going to be the main part of that show. So I'm anxious, I'm nervous. I probably haven't eaten lunch. I probably haven't had evening meal either, because I'm just too nervous. And that's a good sign. It shows that I care about the job. So we go into the grid and we take up our positions. If we haven't got a visual communication and we're on comms, I will then call down to front of house and say, Blue and Crew are in position. If we just need to do a visual communication and we haven't got comms, I will tell the show caller who is at front of house prior to going up that we are ascending into the grid, so they don't need to worry. So we're up in the grid and we're watching the show from 50 metres above. It is relaxing up there. It's noisy, it's hot, it's dark. You have got safety lighting, but everyone thinks, oh, I might fall off. You can't fall off. Okay, there's railings, it's a grid floor, it's a mesh floor. You can see right the way down, but it is the bird's eye view. And I will pop a picture on here at some stage of me in the grid. I did have my phone with me, but my phone was attached to me on a bungee cord and a lanyard, so I couldn't drop it. So I did have permission, and I have got a shot of me in the grid looking down, so you can get the sort of view, or you can see what we're seeing. So anyway, we're now probably entering the final song of the evening, and this is My Time. Okay, this is when all eyes are focused on the drops with the crew. So they've got their run, they know when the song is, they've had their call, they've probably all got headcams on if we've got comms. If not, they all know the visual cue. We are all placed around the grid because the nets are in different places, or the tubes are in different places. This is my time that when my heart is beating, I feel sick, I feel anxious, I'm scared, because upon my head, if anything goes wrong, it's me that gets the blame. So once we know when we've got the cue, so if we're on comms, we'll have standby Blue and Crew. So all we do is we put our hands on the cords that we're going to pull. We don't pull them yet, we just hold them in our hands. We'll probably get another 30-second warning, say standby again. They'll just keep talking to us, and on command all they say is go drop. And that's when we pull the cords, and you just pull and pull and pull and pull, and you don't even remember pulling the cords, okay? But all you can remember seeing is the balloons heading downwards, okay? Well, you're hoping they're not going to go upwards, they're going to go downwards, and you give it probably 10-15 seconds, and all of a sudden those balloons hit the crowds below and they start interacting with them. Okay, they start belting them all over the place, and that's why the 3-foot balloons are so important to me. It's the interaction. So once I've done that, I go from this, oh, I'm really anxious and I'm really scared and I'm really nervous, and I'm absolutely on cloud 9. I've looked around, every single tube is emptied, the arena is full, it's absolutely bouncing, and you've made such a massive difference to the whole of that show. So that's how I feel when I do these jobs, and that's what keeps me going. And I've always said I never ever want to lose that feeling of the nervousness, the anxiety I go through, how scared I am. If I lost that feeling, it would mean I've lost a passion for this job. And that's what I never want to happen. Never ever want to happen. So what we're going to do now is we're probably going to look at a few more pictures. I'm going to talk to you about a very big balloon drop that I did, and that was in September 2019. So we're going to talk a little bit about that and show a video of that as well. So let's just post some more pictures up of drops that you can see, and these are probably going to be stills because they're going to show the tubes in the ceiling or the nets in the ceiling or the tubes when they're laid out, so you can get a feel for the size. So have a quick look. We'll flick through them. I'll leave them on the screen for probably 10-15 seconds each picture. You can get a look and you can get a feel for what I'm on about. See you in a bit, guys. So, how was that? Just a couple of stills on drops. Can you start to see the scale that we work on in these arenas? Now, I'm not saying that you shouldn't do 11-inch balloons for a drop. Of course you should. If that's what your client requires, that's what you do. It also may be that your venue can't house the big drops and you have to do smaller ones. So, yeah, you do it. Now, I'm going to give you a real life situation here. A few years ago, I was asked to do a balloon drop for a concert. Now, it wasn't a massive scale concert, it was a smaller arena. The tour manager got hold of me and said they wanted to do 1,000 11-inch balloons. Okay, I'm not going to turn the job away. 1,000 11-inch balloons is 1,000 11-inch balloons. So I actually took time out to go to the venue and meet with them. And they were doing a site check. And I walked in and, yeah, there they were, and we sat down and had a coffee when you could. Obviously, you can't do that now. And they said, yeah, 1,011-inch balloons. I went, okay. I said, it's not a problem. Can I just show you a video of 1,011-inch balloons coming down at a concert? Oh, yeah, we'd love to see it. That's great. So, produced the video, just on an iPad, and they went, yeah, that's what we want. I went, have you thought about doing 3-footers? Just 100 of them. I said, it'd give you a fantastic effect, a much better effect. So they went, no, 1,011-inch, that's what we want. So I actually pulled them up a video of 100 3-footers. I actually showed them the WBC one. And they went, oh, wow. Oh, God, that looks so much better. There's more interaction. I said, yeah, and your visuals will be fantastic, and they will last longer. Because if you see 11-inch balloons coming down in a big venue, they come down, and yeah, it's a great sight, and the higher they are, the better. But once they hit the audience, you don't really see them again. They all sit on the floor. But with the 3-footers, it's that interaction of people bouncing them around. You saw it on the Alice Cooper one. People lurching forward to get these 3-footers. Absolutely brilliant. So yeah, that's why I use the 3-footers, because as I'm saying, if your venue can only do 11-inch or maybe 16-inch, or maybe you get 3-footers and size them down to 2-foot. It's up to you. But I think your expertise and guidance can give people a far better experience. Now, I'm just going to pop a few more little clips on here for you to look at.
It's 18
I'm
hours.
probably going to do just some stills and some pictures. And then what I'm going to do is the final section of this will be talking about rams. Now, it sounds a bit laborious and it sounds a bit, oh, I'm not interested in rams. But if you're asked for one, it's always a good idea to know how to do them. So I'll guide you through that. And then the final piece is the one you're going to like. It's the big balloon drop. Okay, it's the Muse one, which was 1,000 3-footers, and that's good as well. So have a look at some more stills, and then we'll come back and have a chat about rams, and then finally we'll get on to the big stuff. See you later, guys. Bye. Okay, so a few more visuals there for you. Obviously, they weren't all 3-foot balloon drops. There were 11-inch balloons and 16-inch balloons in those clips. So it just goes to show I don't always do 3-footers. I do what the client wants. But for me, when it comes to concerts, I do the big drops. So not all about huge 36-inch, 11-inch and 16-inch. Right, next segment is the RAMs. Now this might sound a little bit laborious, but it is a good idea to watch it and follow it, and you'll be able to see what a RAMS is about. A RAMS is a risk assessment method statement. It means that when you're on these large jobs and you are asked for a RAMS form, all you're doing is identifying the risks that are involved with the job, and you're putting a method statement together to make sure that those risks are minimized. What is RAMS all about, really? It's about working in a safe and controlled environment so that you go home at the end of the day. That's it, really. That's how it boils down. Some of you might say, oh, I'll never need a RAMS. If you're asked for one, you can refer back to this. Now, I can't actually say I can give you any qualifications on RAMS because I can't. It has to be from a specific company or an organisation that is, deemed okay to deliver RAMS courses. So you can't say this, oh, I've watched Matt Lewis do RAMS, I'm okay. You may need to look for a course on RAMS if you want to follow it through much further. But this is just my RAMS. It's my guideline as to what I do, and I've never had a venue come back to me and saying, oh no, that's not right. Okay, so it's a form I designed, and if anyone needs the form, just ask. Quite sure you can get hold of me one way or the other. I'm very pleased to share it with you. So what I'm going to do is go to the screen now and pop up a RAMS form, and then you won't see me because I'll be talking to you about the RAMS, and then we'll come back and move on to our last segment. See you in a moment. Okay, let's talk about your RAMS form. You should be seeing on the screen in front of you now one of my RAMS forms. I've not been able to get the whole of it in. The only bits that are missing at the top are the company name, the client, and the venue and the date of the function. So that's not important at the moment. What you can see is in section 1, I've identified the job description, and it is just basically to install and activate 3 balloon drops over the audience area. So the client or the venue knows what I'm doing. Description of work, to inflate on site 300 3-foot balloons and place into 3 drop nets measuring 50 foot by 7 foot. This is quite simple. It just explains to the client what we're going to do, and it gives them the measurements of the actual nets. Then we move on to rig all nets over the main auditorium with the help of the in-house rigging team. Yeah, the in-house rigging team will be required to do these ones with us because they may have to walk out onto the actual beam, so we've identified that. Then we've moved on to the method of how we're going to actually do this job. Simply states all balloons to be inflated with high-powered battery air blowers. That's the nice thing, battery-powered. They can see we're not going to have cables everywhere. So they were quite happy with that. Once the nets are filled, they'll be stored away from the main floor area until rigging commences. Yeah, they can see that we're actually conscious about the rigging and that we're not going to interfere with all the crew on there. We're going to keep them out of the way until called into the main arena to rig. It's very simple. We've also identified that all staff involved in rigging will move the nets to the location on the ground level and wait for ropes to be loaded from the grid. They know we're going to wait. They know we're not going to rush them. All nets to be floated at 5 foot prior to be taken up to the grid. That just tells them what we're going to do and what their staff need to do to help us. All crew working at grid height to comply with the venue rules and full pat down prior to entering the grid. All items not required on the grid to be left in lockers supplied by the venue. One crew member to wear a battery head torch. That just tells them we've understood their rules and we're going to abide by them. It shows that we're going to keep it all safe. All lines and nets to stay intact after the drop and until the floor is cleared. That then tells them that, yeah, we're not going to start lowering nets while people are in the arena. We're going to wait till everybody's out and the floor is cleared and we're given the go-ahead. All crew to have a briefing prior to entering the grid to activate the drops. Briefing to given by the venue safety officer or fire officer. Yeah, why wouldn't we do that? That's what we have to do. So that's section 1, and we've covered all the main points. We then move on to section 2, which is the hazards that we see and the measures we're going to take to avoid those hazards. Tripping over power leads required for electrical air inflators. We haven't got electric air inflators, but if we had them, all inflating stations were placed next to the wall, all leads covered with safety mats. So we've showed to them that we are prepared to go the extra mile to make sure everything is safe. We've covered bursting of balloons, we've covered crew, we've covered staff not wearing high-vis jackets when they're entering the rig for the drop in the evening because we need to be in blacks. So we've done that. We've also covered the list of the crew. Obviously, I've blacked out 2 of the crew members, which you don't need to know about, but I've put my phone number on there because I'm the site contact. I don't want my crew to be involved in this. This is my RAMs. They won't know about it, even though it will be issued to them. I'm the site contact. Protective clothing to be issued. High-vis vests, hard hats, safety glasses. Hard hats and vests to be worn at all times whilst working within the main arena during the get in and get out. They can see from this form we understand a lot. Okay, and as I said earlier, it's not compulsory, but if a venue asks for it, you have a right to produce it for them. Now, I've had many occasions when I've turned up at a venue and they've asked me for a risk assessment and I'm doing a job. Hang on, they've got to give me at least 14 days notice on this. So there's 2 sorts of risk assessments. There's a generic risk assessment and a specific risk assessment. This one is a specific risk assessment. A generic risk assessment would be what I would do for balloon drops, what I would do for other items such as aeropoles, such as exploding balloons. I have one for helium gas and things like that. So I have generic ones which I keep on my phone and I can forward to them if on site. But realistically, they can't ask you for a risk assessment once you get to the venue and start installing. So I send them a generic one, which will cover everything on here apart from what this job entails, because they haven't asked for one. So you've just got to be understanding. So that's a basic risk assessment. It's not rocket science, it's just identifying what you think could go wrong and the measures you've put in place to make sure these things won't happen. It's not saying they won't happen, but it's the measures you've put in place to make sure that everybody is safe. So when I mean everybody, it's venue staff, contractors, anyone visiting the venue on the day. So just be mindful of what people ask you and be safe. So there you are. That's just a basic risk assessment. If anyone needs this sheet, fine. I don't mind emailing it to you. If you need a hand filling it in, all you have to do is ask. And I'll willingly do it because it's keeping everyone safe and it shows that we all care. So there you have it. Told you this would be a quick section. Didn't want to rabbit on too much about it. What we're going to do now is I'm going to come back to you on the video and have a little chat with you, and then we'll move on to our final segment. Speak to you later. So there you have it. RAMs. It's not complicated, is it? It's just identifying what you need to identify and showing that you care about you, your crew, and everyone around you. So this brings me to the close of my 1 hour with you guys. I hope you've enjoyed it and I hope you've had fun. We're now going to cut to the big balloon drop, the Muse one. 1,000 3-foot balloons dropped on the final number. Now, how did this job come about? Tour managers move around to different groups, and this tour manager knew me from working with me on various jobs. I had 7 days notice to get this sorted. You might think 7 days, that's a short amount of time, but as I said, I've been around in this industry quite a long time and I know people. So the brief came in, 1,000 balloon drop, balloons have to be black and silver. Oh, and by the way, they need to come out of black tubes. Yeah, that was the only issue I had, was the black tubes. But I knew who to ask. So sent the measurements up, back came the quote, we organised it. So within 7 days we had this job done. It's, as I said, it's for Muse. Luckily I was given some tickets for people to come and watch this, so I asked them to take videos of the balloon drop. I primed them to when the balloon drop was happening, and yeah, the videos were as good as they could be. So we're going to cut to the video now, and at the end of this video I'm going to post a picture of my bird's eye view of what I see when I'm on a balloon drop, when I'm up there. I followed all the health and safety guidelines, and my phone was on a lanyard in a pouch, so I couldn't drop. It's a lovely shot, and it's just at basically 39 meters above the arena. It's high enough. Okay, I have worked higher. So all I'm going to say to you guys is thank you very much for joining in and watching this. Thank you, Qualitex, for allowing me to share my experience of balloon drops with you. Thank you to Dom and Keith for hosting all of this. I don't know how you do it, but you do. And I'll sign off by saying, stay safe, stay happy, stay positive, but most of all, stay kind to everybody you meet.